Good morning, students. Yes, say your prayer. Thank you. நான் ஒரு நல்ல ஆசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்ல ஆசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்ல ஆசிரியர். நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். Okay, students, take your social science book. Here, take page number 58. So we will move to Unit 6 in History, Development of Industries in India. In our previous class, we discussed about the education system in India. So from ancient period, so how it changed till the modern period. So what are the schemes introduced by the government in present day? So we will discuss it in our previous class. So today's class, we will discuss about industries. So industries. So a country's economy so mostly depend on industry only. So if there is more industries means then the country will develop well. So because they only convert the raw materials into the finished product. So every country need industries. So how the industries developed in India? So if you take India, so once upon a time it is famous for its handicraft and indigenous industries. So India is famous for some artworks, so especially in the field of cotton, in the field of textile. But after the arrival of the Europeans, especially the British, so who conquered our country, so they crushed the Indian industries. Okay, but after achieving our independence, our government, so both the central government and the state government, so announced various policies and schemes in order to promote the industries. In today's class, we will discuss about the traditional craft of India and also the decline of Indian industries. So because of the arrival of the Europeans, then finally the government support, so to encourage the industries, that is after independence. So what are the achievements? So we have achieved, we have got. So we will discuss in today's class. Okay, va? So learning objectives. So what are we going to learn from this unit? So first, acquaint with the traditional craft of India. So to become familiar with the traditional. So traditional means so that has been practiced for longer period. So that is the old one. So become familiar with the traditional craft of India. Then analyze the causes for the decline of Indian industries. So once upon a time, so especially in the 16th and 17th century, so Indian products were world famous. But so later with the arrival of the Europeans, especially when British began to conquer our country, so there is a decline in the Indian industries. So the causes for the decline of Indian industries. Then understand the beginning of the modern industries. So understand the beginning of the modern industries. Then know the aim of 5-year plan. So 5-year plan. So it was introduced by the government of India in the year 1951. So they had a plan. So for 5 years. So in order to promote a particular sector. But now, so there is no 5-year plan. So our present day Prime Minister, so Narendra Modi had dropped that plan. But that plan was introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so the aim of 5-year plan. Then finally, understand the phases of industry development in India. So understand the different phases of industry development in India. So from 1950s to so present day. So in the contemporary period. So the development of industries we will discuss in this lesson. Okay, so learning objectives: acquaint with the traditional craft of India, analyze the causes of the decline of the Indian industries, understand the meaning of modern industries, know the aim of the 5-year plans, then understand the phases of industry development in India. So today's class we will discuss about the traditional craft, then decline of Indian industries, and also the beginning of the modern industries. Okay, va? Introduction. The history of Indian industry so dates back to the history of humankind. So we don't know the history of Indian industry. So it dates back to the history of humankind. So when the human history starts, we don't know. So like that, so Indian industry, so we don't know so the exact period. See, India's traditional economy was characterized by a blend of agriculture and handicraft. So India's traditional, so the old economy, it was characterized by a blend of agriculture and handicraft. According to Edward Baines, the birthplace of cotton manufacture is India, where it probably flourished long before the dawn of authentic history. Yes, according to Edward Baines, so the birthplace of cotton manufacture is India. Yes, according to Edward Baines, the birthplace of cotton manufacture is India, where it developed. Where it developed long days before the dawn of history. So we don't know the exact period when history starts. So like that, so the cotton textiles have started in India. So long days ago. So we don't know the exact period. So we don't know the period of history. So normally, so we can't say the accurate date. So like that we can't guess the accurate period of the cotton manufacture. But we know it originates in India only. Then Bernier, so who visited India during the reign of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, so marveled means he surprised. So he surprised the incredible quantity of manufactured goods. So Bernier, who visited India during the period of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, so he was surprised at the incredible quantity of manufactured goods. Then Tavernier, so he was a French traveler. So Tavernier, so a French traveler admired the peacock throne. So what is the peacock throne? So it was the seat, so used by Shah Jahan, so Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, to sit. So in King's Darbar, you can see the king, so sit in a, so seat now. So that is called as throne seat. So Shah Jahan so made a special seat, so which looked like a peacock. So Tavernier, a French traveler, admired the peacock throne, then carpet of silk and gold as well as many carvings. So Tavernier, a French traveler, so he was admired, so he was attracted by the peacock throne, so and also the carpets of silk and gold as well as many carvings. Okay, so the history of Indian industry so dates back to the history of humankind. So India's traditional economy was characterized by a blend of agriculture and handicraft. So according to Edward Baines, the birthplace of cotton manufacture in India is India, where it probably developed long before the dawn of authentic history. Bernier, who visited India during the reign of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, marveled at the incredible quantity of manufactured goods. Tavernier, a French traveler, admired the peacock throne and also the carpets of silks and gold as well as many carvings. So traditional craft of India. So the craft in India has a rich history. So the artwork in India has a rich history. The crafts were an integral part in the life of the people. So craft were an integral part. So integral part in the life of the people. So before the arrival of the mechanized industry, the production of Indian handcraft was the second largest source of employment in rural India next to agriculture. So before the arrival of the industries, so the machines. So the production of Indian handcraft was the second largest source of employment in rural India. That is in village, so next to agriculture. So the traditional Indian industry was known in the field of textiles, woodwork, ivory, stone cutting, leather, so fragrance wood, metal work and jewelry. So the traditional Indian industry was known in the field of textiles, woodwork, ivory, stone cutting, leather, fragrance wood, metal work and jewelry. So the village artisans such as potters, weavers, smiths, so produced articles and utensils for domestic use. So the village artisans such as potters. So potters, so those who made pots, so the things made of clay. Then weavers, those who made so cloth. Then smith, so they deal with gold or sometimes with iron. So blacksmith or goldsmith. So they produced articles and the things, utensils for domestic purpose. Okay, so the craft in India has a rich history. Craft were an integral part in the life of the people. So before the arrival of the mechanized industry, so the production of Indian handicraft was the second largest source of employment in rural India next to agriculture. So the traditional Indian industry was known in the field of textiles, woodwork, ivory, stone cutting, leather, fragrance wood, metal work and jewelry. The village artisans such as potters, weavers, smiths produced articles and utensils for the domestic purpose. But some specialized goods were produced for domestic as well as international markets. So the village artisans, so such as potters, weavers, and smiths, so produced the things so for domestic purpose. But some specialized goods were produced for domestic and international market. So some such specialized goods produced were cotton textile, muslin, wool, silk and metal articles. So some specialist goods so produced for international markets were cotton textiles, muslin, a type of cloth, then wool, silk and metal articles. So India was famous for its fine quality of cotton and silk cloths. So India was so famous for its fine quality of cotton and silk cloth. There are references made in many scholarly works to the professions of the weaver, the tailor and the dyer. So dyer, so he only gave the color to the cotton. So the cotton which was in white in color. But how we get a different type of colored cloths? So the dyer, so they add the suitable dyes in order to get color. So certain centers of metal industry were quite well known. So certain centers of metal industries are also known. So for example, so Saurashtra, so it is famous for bell metal. So Banga, so that is Bengal, it is famous for tin industry. And Dhaka, so which was now in Bangladesh, was identified with muslin cloth. So specialist goods and things were produced for domestic and international markets. So some specialist goods so produced were cotton textile, muslin, wool, silk and metal articles. So India was, so during that time, so in the ancient period, India was famous for its fine quality of cotton and silk cloth. So there are references made in many scholarly works, so many historical works, so to the professions of the weaver, the tailor and the dyer. Certain centers of metal industry were quite well known. For example, Saurashtra was known for bell metal, Banga, that is Bengal, for tin industry, and Dhaka was identified with muslin cloths. So next we will discuss about the causes of the decline of Indian industry. So once Indian products was world famous, so there were demand for Indian goods in world market. But so what causes the decline of Indian industries? So first, the loss of royal patronage. So royal patronage means so the king's support, that is the royal support. So the British conquest transformed Indian economy into colonial economy. So the British conquest transformed the Indian economy. So that is self-reliant. So they depend on themselves itself. So the Indian economy so depends on the own people. But the British conquest transformed the Indian economy into colonial economy. So as the British conquered the Indian territories one after another, the native rulers, the nobles and the landlords lost their power and prosperity. So as the British conquered the Indian territories one after another, so the native rulers and the local people so lost their power and prosperity. So the demand for the fine articles so to be displayed in the darbars and other functions disappeared. So when the British began to conquer Indian territories, the native rulers, the nobles and the landlords lost their power and prosperity. So the demand for the fine articles, so which was displayed in darbars and other ceremonial occasions, that is other functions, other religious or some other functions, disappeared. As a result, the craftsmen who were supported by these rulers and the nobles lost their importance and became poor. So because before the arrival of the British, so the native rulers and the nobles, so if there is any function means, so they asked the craftsmen so to decorate the function hall, so or the darbars, so or the ceremonial occasions. So when the British occupy India, so they lost their importance. So the nobles, the native rulers lost their importance. So the craftsmen, so who were supported by these rulers, lost their importance and they become poor. So for generations, so for many generations, so these craftsmen had been practicing their craft and they did not possess any other skill. So for generations, so for long years, so these craftsmen so have practiced so this skill only. So they did not possess any other skill. So they had to work as laborers in the field to meet their daily needs. So these craftsmen so had to work as laborers. So because they do not know any other job. So just for generations, so they had been practicing their craft only. So they don't know other skills. So they had to work as laborers in the field to meet their daily needs. So this change resulted in the increased pressure on agriculture and there was large scale underemployment in agriculture. So because of this, so it resulted in the increased pressure on agriculture and there was an large scale underemployment in agriculture. So underemployment means, so there are many persons to work, so but they don't know how to work. So underemployment, not unemployment. So the substitution of commercial food crops in agriculture so damaged the Indian agro-based industry. So apart from this, the substitution of commercial food crops. So the British, so they forced the farmers to cultivate the commercial crops. So it also affected the Indian agro-based industry. So the splendid, so that means very impressive period of indigenous handicraft industries came to an end as the political influence of the East India Company spread over various parts of the country. So the impressive period of indigenous, so the old handicraft industry, so came to an end as the political power of the East India Company so spread over various parts of the country. So the loss of royal patronage. So the British so transformed the Indian economy into colonial economy. So when the British so began to conquer, so one by one, so began to conquer the territories one by one. So the local rulers, so the native rulers and the nobles and the rich persons lost their power and prosperity. So they lost their so splendor. Okay, so the craftsmen, so who depend on these persons. So because so they provided the darbars and the ceremonial occasions with fine articles. So they lost their importance. So these craftsmen, so for generation, had been practicing their craft and they did not possess any other skill. So they have to work as a laborer in the field to meet their daily needs. So but the agriculture, so which was now with large scale underemployment, so can't bear this laborers. And also the substitution of commercial food crops in agriculture affected the Indian agro-based industry. So the impressive period of indigenous handicraft industry came to an end as the political influence of the East India Company spread over various parts of India. Then transition from producer to exporter of raw materials. So transition from producer to exporter of raw materials. See, Indian handicraft that had made the country famous collapsed under the colonial rule. So the Indian handicraft so that had made the country famous now collapsed. So now became worst under the colonial rule. This was mainly due to the competition posed by the machine-made goods that were imported from Britain by the British rulers. So Indian handicraft so that had made the country famous once so had collapsed under the colonial rule. So this was mainly due to the competition so imposed by the machine-made goods that were imported from Britain by the British rulers. The ruling British turned India as the producer of raw materials for their industries and markets for their finished product. So the ruling British, so the British, so after so occupying our country had changed our country as the supplier of raw materials and market for their finished products. Moreover, the railways and roadways introduced by the British so facilitated, so supported the movement of finished products to reach the remotest part of India and the procurement of raw materials from these rough parts. So procurement means so process of obtaining supplies of something, so especially for government or an organization. So the ruling British so turned India as the producer of raw materials for the industries and markets for their finished product. So moreover, the railways and roadways so introduced by the British so facilitated, so improved the movement of finished products to reach the remotest part of India and the procurement of raw materials from these spots. So they introduced roadways and railways in order to promote the British industries only. Then competition of the machine-made goods. So textile was the oldest industry in India. So already we have discussed, we don't know the cotton manufacture when originated, when developed in India. So textile was the oldest industry in India. So the highly specialized skills of Indian weavers and the low production of cost gave a tough competition to the European manufacturers. So textile was the oldest industry in India. So the highly specialized skills of Indian weavers. So not only the craftsmen, so weavers, so they also so practiced the skill for many generations. So naturally they have highly specialized skill. And the production cost is low. So it gave a tough competition to the European manufacturers. It led to the invention of the cotton gin. So the European manufacturers so could not compete with the Indian weavers. So the highly specialized skilled Indian weavers and they produce goods. So they produce the textiles with low cost. So the European manufacturers could not compete with them. Yeah. So it led to the invention of cotton gin. So cotton gin, a machine for separating the seeds of a cotton plant from the cotton. Yeah, so cotton gin, which is used to separate cotton from the cotton seed. Yeah. Then flying shuttle. So flying shuttle. Yeah, so a pointed tool used in making cloth to pull a thread backward and forward and over the other threads that pass along the length of the cloth. So flying shuttle. So just to join the thread and make cloth. Yeah. Then spinning jenny and steam engine. So spinning jenny. Yeah, so the art of making thread from cotton. So spinning jenny, a machine which is used to make thread from cotton. So cotton gin used to separate cotton from seed. So seed from the cotton. Yeah. Then spinning jenny so helps to convert. So make thread from cotton. Then flying shuttle so helps to join the thread and make cloth. Yeah. And steam engine. Yeah, so the engine which runs with the help of steam power. Yeah. So these were invented in England. Yeah. So this made the production of textiles in England on large scale. Yeah. Now India became the market for the finished product of Britain. So India became the market for the finished products of Britain. As a result, peasants who had supplemented their income by part-time spinning and weaving had now rely on only on cultivation. You know, so because the British, so they dumped Indian market with their finished product. So the peasants, so who had supplemented their income by part-time spinning and weaving, had to now rely only on cultivation. So they lost their livelihood. So moreover, the Indian goods made with primitive. So primitive. So very simple and old-fashioned techniques could not compete with the industrial goods made in England. You know, so competition of machine-made goods. Textile was the oldest industry in India. So the highly specialized skills of Indian weavers and the low production cost gave a tough competition to the European manufacturers. It led to the invention of cotton gin, flying shuttle, spinning jenny, and steam engine in England, which made the production of textiles on large scale in England. So India became the market for the finished products of Britain. As a result, peasants who had supplemented their income by part-time spinning and weaving had to now depend only on cultivation. So they lost their livelihood. Moreover, the Indian goods made with old-fashioned techniques could not compete with the industrial goods made in England. Then the trading policy of the British. So all the policies implemented by the British government in India had a deep impact on India's indigenous industries. So all the policies implemented by the British government in India had a deep effect on Indian industries. So free trade policy followed by the East India Company compelled the Indian traders to sell their goods below the market price. So the free trade policy followed by the East India Company so forced the Indian traders to sell their goods below the market price. So this forced many craftsmen to abandon their ancestral handicraft talent. So the free trade policy followed by the East India Company so forced the Indian traders to sell their goods below the market prices. So this forced the craftsmen so to leave their ancestral handicraft talent. So East India Company aimed to buy the maximum quantity of Indian manufactured goods at the cheapest price and sell them to other European countries for a huge profit. So East India Company's aim was to buy the maximum quantity of Indian manufactured goods at the cheapest price and sell them to other European countries for a huge profit. So this also affected the traditional Indian industry. So this also affected the traditional Indian industry. So the British followed the policy of productive tariff. So tariff, a tax that is paid for goods coming into or going out of a country. So the British followed the policy of productive tariff that was much against the trading interest of India. So heavy duties were charged on Indian goods in Britain, but at the same time the English goods entering India were charged only nominal duties. So the heavy duties were charged on Indian goods in Britain. So the Indian goods were imposed with heavy duties, that is high tax in England. But at the same time, the English goods entering India were charged only with normal taxes. So the trading policy of the British, all the policies implemented by the British government in India had a deep effect on India's indigenous industries. So free trade policy followed by the East India Company so compelled the Indian traders to sell their goods below the market price. So this forced many craftsmen to abandon, so to leave their ancestral handicraft talent. So East India Company's aim was to buy the maximum quantity of Indian manufactured goods at the low price and sell them to other European countries for huge profit. So they sell them in high price, so they get huge profit. So this affected the traditional Indian industry. So because they get the things, so they buy the things only for cheapest price. So this affected the traditional Indian industry. So the British followed the policy of protective tariff that was much against the trading interest of India. That is, they imposed a heavy duty on Indian goods in Britain, but at the same time, the English goods entering India were charged only with nominal duties. Then deindustrialization. So during the first half of 19th century, Western countries were experiencing industrialization. India suffered a period of industrial decline. So during the first half of 19th century, so the Western countries were experiencing industrialization. So many industries began to exist in European countries. But India suffered a period of industrial decline. So the process of disruption of industrial Indian handicraft and the decline in national income has been referred to as deindustrialization. So the process of disruption of traditional Indian craft and the decline in national income has been referred to as deindustrialization. So Indian domestic industry could not have withstood foreign competition, which was backed by a powerful industrial organization, big machinery and large scale production. So Indian domestic industry could not compete with the foreign countries. So they were supported by powerful organizations, big machines and large scale production. So the difficulties in Indian industries was complicated further by the construction of Suez Canal. So have you heard about Suez Canal? So recently in newspaper, so they mentioned about Suez Canal now. So it was a man-made canal constructed between Africa and Asia. So it was constructed in Egypt. So if you see the world map, so the Europeans, so if they want to come to India, means they have to go around the whole continent of Africa. But by constructing the Suez Canal, so the distance was reduced. So just by passing the Suez Canal, they can reach Asian countries, especially India soon. So the construction of Suez Canal, so the transport cost was reduced, which made the British goods cheaper in India. So the main cause for the decline of handicraft industry was the greater employment opportunities and income generating effect of the modern factory. So the main cause for the decline of the handicraft was the greater employment opportunities and the income generating effect of the modern factory. So deindustrialization. During the first half of the 19th century, Western countries were experiencing industrialization, but India suffered a period of industrial decline. So the process of disruption of traditional Indian craft and decline in national income has been referred to as deindustrialization. The Indian domestic industry could not compete with the foreign companies, which was supported by a powerful industrial organization, big machines, then large scale production. So the difficulties in Indian industries was complicated further by the construction of Suez Canal, because of which transport cost was reduced, so that made the British goods cheaper in India. So the main cause for the decline of handicraft industry was the greater employment opportunity and the income generating effect of the modern factory. So next, the beginning of modern industries. So till now we discussed about the decline of Indian industry. So the Indian industries declined so only because of the British. So the British occupied our country, and just so they want our country to be the supplier of raw materials and a market for their finished product. So they crushed our industries so completely. So the beginning of modern industries. So the process of industrialization started in India from the mid 19th century. So the process of industrialization started in India from the mid 19th century. The beginning of the modern industry is associated with the development in plantations. So plantations, so the crops like jute, cotton. So the beginning of the modern industry is associated with the development in mainly plantations like jute, cotton and also steel. So there was a limited development of mining, especially coal. So the accelerated industrialization began with the development of railways and roadways. So the accelerated, so the increased industrialization began with the development of roadways and railways. So this growth greatly influenced the economic and social life of the people in the country. The two World War, so the First World War and the Second World War, so gave an impetus, so gave a chance to the development of number of industries such as chemical, iron and steel, sugar, cement, glass and other consumer goods. So most mills, so most industries were set up by the wealthy Indian businessmen. So initially, this development was confined to the setting up of cotton and jute textile mills. So the process of industrialization started in India from the 19th century. The beginning of the modern industry is associated with the development in plantations like jute and cotton, and also with the steel. So there was a limited development of mining, so especially coal. Some mining industries, that is coal industries. The accelerated industrialization began with the development of roadways and railways. So this growth greatly influenced the economic and social life of the people in the country. So the two World War gave an impetus to the development of number of industries such as chemical, iron and steel, sugar, cement, glass and other consumer goods. So most of these mills were set up by the wealthy Indian businessmen. Initially, this development was confined to the setting up of cotton and jute textile mills. Then the plantation industries. So the plantation industry was the first to attract the Europeans. So the plantation industry was the first to attract the Europeans. Why? Because the plantation industry could provide jobs on a large scale, and in reality, it could meet the increasing demands for tea, coffee and indigo. So indigo, a plant which is used for making dyes. So indigo by the British society. So the plantation industry was the first to attract the Europeans. So the plantation industry could provide jobs on a large scale, and in reality it could meet the increasing demand for tea, coffee and indigo by the British society. So therefore plantation industry was started earlier. So therefore the plantation industry was started earlier. The Assam Tea Company was founded in 1839. So Assam, it is famous for tea. So the Assam Tea Company was founded in 1839. Coffee plantation also started simultaneously. So along with the tea, so coffee plantation was also started. So the tea plantation was most important industry in East India. So coffee plantation became the center of activities in South India. So if you take tea, it is famous in East India. So tea plantation is seen mostly in East India, especially Assam. But if you take coffee plant, so it is cultivated in South India, especially in Karnataka. So Karnataka is famous for coffee plantation. So the third important plantation which gave birth to factory was jute. So the third important plantation, so apart from tea and coffee, it was jute. So all these industries were controlled by the many former employees of the British East India Company. So all these industries, so tea company, coffee company and also the jute industries, so they were controlled by the former employees, so former workers of the British East India Company. So the plantation industry, so the plantation industry was the first to attract the Europeans, because the plantation industry could provide jobs on a large scale, and in reality it could meet the increasing demands for tea, coffee and indigo by the British society. Therefore plantation industry was started earlier. So the Assam Tea Company was founded in 1839, and the coffee plantation was also started simultaneously. As the tea plantation was most important industry of East India, coffee plantation became the center of activities in South India. So the third important plantation which gave birth to factory was jute. So all these industries were controlled by the many farmer workers of the British East India Company. Then the machine-based industry. So when was machine-based industry introduced in India? So initially there were handicraft industries only. So when was machine-based industries introduced? In India, modern industrial sector in an organized form started with the establishment of cotton textile industry in Bombay in 1854. In India, modern industrial sector in an organized form, so started with the establishment of cotton textile industry in Bombay in 1854. In 1855, jute industry was started in Hooghly Valley. So Hooghly, a tributary of river Ganga. So in 1855, jute industry was started in the Hooghly Valley at Rishra near Calcutta. So the first paper mill was started in Baliganj near Calcutta in 1870. So in India, modern industrial sector in an organized form started with the establishment of cotton textile industry in Bombay in 1854. In 1855, jute industry was started in the Hooghly Valley at Rishra near Calcutta. The first paper mill was started in Baliganj near Calcutta in 1870. The cotton mills were dominated by the Indian companies and the jute mills were owned by the British capitalists. So the cotton mills in India were dominated by the Indian enterprises and the jute mills, so they were owned by the British capitalists. So cotton mills were opened in Bombay and Ahmedabad and the jute mills so proliferated on the Hooghly river banks. So cotton mills they were opened in Bombay and Ahmedabad. So that is especially in western part of India. But jute mills they were opened mostly in eastern India, especially in the banks of Hooghly river. The woolen and leather factories became prominent in Kanpur. So the woolen and the leather factories became more important in the Kanpur, in the city of Kanpur. So machine based industries in India, modern industrial sector in an organized form started with the establishment of cotton textile industry in Bombay in 1854. In 1855, jute industry was started in Rishra near Calcutta. The first paper mill was started in Baliganj near Calcutta in 1870. So the cotton mill were so dominated by the Indian companies, while the jute mills were owned by the British companies. So cotton mills were opened in Bombay and Ahmedabad, and the jute mills so they mostly seen in so they were started in the banks of Hooghly river. The woolen and leather factories became prominent in Kanpur. Next, heavy industries. So the heavy industries included the iron and steel industry. So heavy industries means the industry which manufactured iron and steel. So steel was the first manufactured by modern methods at Kulti in 1874. So steel was the first manufactured one. So by the modern methods at Kulti in 1874. So steel. So when iron is mixed with carbon means we get steel. So steel was first manufactured by modern methods. Iron and steel industries began rooted in Indian soil in the beginning of 20th century. So iron and steel industries began rooted. So started in the Indian soil in the beginning of 20th century. However, the credit for the development of large scale manufacture of steel in India goes to Jamshedji Tata. So Tata, so the famous company, it was started by Jamshedji Tata. So the credit for the development of large-scale manufacture of steel in India goes to Jamshedji Tata. So the Tata Iron and Steel Company, TISCO, was started in 1907 at Jamshedpur. So the Tata Iron and Steel Company was set up in the year 1907 at Jamshedpur. It started producing pig iron, a type of iron, in 1911. So pig iron, so the high quality iron, and steel ingots in 1912. So steel ingots. So ingot, a piece of metal. So TISCO started producing pig iron in 1911 and steel ingot in 1912. So heavy industries, the iron and steel industry. So although it started in the 20th century itself, so the credit for the development of large scale manufacturer so goes to Jamshedji Tata, which started the Tata Iron and Steel Company, TISCO, in the year 1907 at Jamshedpur. It produced pig iron. It started to produce pig iron in 1911 and ingots, steel ingots in 1912. Okay students, so today's class we discussed about the traditional craft of India. So how the Indian goods attracted the foreigners so during the ancient and medieval period. Then we discussed about the decline of Indian industries. So the loss of royal patronage, so transition from producer to exporter of raw materials, then competition of machine made goods, then trading policy of the British, then deindustrialization. That is how the British so crushed the Indian goods. So with the machine made goods, so they crushed the Indian goods. So the Indians, so especially the handicraft, so who made things so for the many generations. So because of the arrival of the machines, so they lost their job. So it affected our economy. So we discussed that. Then we discussed about the beginning of modern industries. So the plantation industries, so tea, coffee, then indigo industries. Then we discussed about machine made industries, so especially cotton industry and jute industry. Then finally about heavy industry, so that is iron and steel industry. So tomorrow's class we will discuss about the growth of modern industry. So take your book. So textbook reading, take page number 59. So read the heading Decline of Indian Industries. In that read the loss of royal patronage, then transition from producer to exporter of raw materials. Then homework. Take page number 66. 7th Roman letter. So detailed question. So first, how was the trading policy of British caused for the decline of Indian industries? So take page number 60. See the heading, trading policy of the British. That paragraph fully. So write it and read it well. So that is the homework question. Okay, thank you students. Have a nice day.